Team, happy Thursday. Kate and I just got back from a really great staff retreat, and I'm going to be really excited to share with you what all that we have planned for the next 10 years at LABC, which is pretty cool. But we need to jump in this because this is a big lesson that I think is really, really important for all of our students to hear. Number one, read the session summary right there. I think it's on page 16 right at the gate. That's pretty great. But number two, look at how mad Jezebel is and notice who she's mad at. She's not mad at God, even though God was the one that called down fire from heaven and ultimately uh, uh, just caused all the carnage. She's mad at Elijah. Elijah didn't do this, God did. She's not willing to repent, though. She just wants to be mad at God's people. This is how the enemy works. There's nothing that Satan can do to take out God for what he's done, and so he just comes after God's people. They need to know that that's a reality and to be prepared and to watch out. I say to protect themselves. God's the one that protects us. But nonetheless, they need to know that that's how life works. It's sad, but it's scary. Notice Elijah sort of takes a victory lap. And I say this from the end of chapter 18. When the rain started coming again, which really back up and read parts of 18, there was a drought. It starts raining again. And Elijah takes a victory lap. He literally runs in front of the chariot. And I don't think he's showing off like he has a job. He's going to deliver a message, but he's running in front of the chariot, and God does this in him. But as soon as he gets word that Jezebel's going to kill him, now he's running away, again, literally running away. I bring that up just to show you how quickly our emotions change. And by the way, it's not just girls that are super emotional like that and can change at the drop of a hat. Our boys need to hear that, both from the standpoint that it's okay for them to be emotional at times, but also they don't need to make fun of the young lady's emotions because we all have them. And all of us, at the drop of a hat, can get scared or change our minds or just suddenly not feel the same way about something that we used to feel. Our feelings are not always truth. This lesson covers that too, but our feelings are there nonetheless. And so everybody can experience that. So Elijah very quickly gets hit with this massive amount of depression, but notice God's grace to him. When Elijah was literally running away from God and running away from God's promises and running away from God's protection, even, God was gracious to him, and God gave Elijah a great meal and a great nap and another great meal and another great nap. And then here in a little bit, we're going to talk more about this. When God speaks to Elijah, he speaks to him kindly. That's a big deal, y'all. Just point out God's grace and point out that we have even more grace than that because of what Christ has done for us on the cross. Let that be the Christ connection this week. The one the book points out is good, but just, man, see God's grace all over this thing, especially not only in our doubt, but again, in our feelings and in our fears. God is gracious to us. Now, when it comes to the cave scenario, it's kind of bizarre when God is talking to Elijah. Really, two things about this are bizarre. Number one, Elijah uses some really interesting distancing language, and what I mean by that is God comes to Elijah and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And Elijah says, "I was serving God, and then all this terrible stuff happened, and it's awful." And he's talking to God, but he's using distancing language. He's talking about God to God. And God asked him again, "Hey, what are you doing?" "I was serving the Most High God, and this is happening." He's distanced himself from God because I literally think he feels like he's alone. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with anybody when it comes to depression or not, but they'll do the same thing. They'll say, "I just feel alone." Well, you're sitting right across the table from somebody. You're not alone, but that's how they feel. And this is where Elijah is too. He feels alone. He feels even that God has abandoned him to the point that he's talking about God when he's away, when God is not. This is what depression does to us. And it's an awful, horrible, debilitating feeling. But number two, look how God deals with him. We already saw the grace in the giving of the gifts, but we see this weird scenario where there's an earthquake and the cave shakes and there's fire and just all this stuff. And then God speaks softly, and that's what Elijah responds to. And I really think all the craziness had nothing to do with Elijah first. I really believe that that was for the readers now. Um, because I don't know if you've ever felt like this before when you're dealing with someone who's kind of trapped in their own thoughts, or someone who is so depressed they can't see past their own hands the truth. There's a part of you that just wants to shake them. You're like, "Stop it, wake up, come on." This can be especially true with their own children, and yet that's not how God treated his child. He was kind and gracious to him. And notice that's what Elijah responded to. That's when Elijah got up and came out of the cave. And so we would do well to treat others that same way that God treated Elijah. So to just think about that, I think it's important. Last couple of things. God told Elijah to get up, get back to work, and know that he's with him. And here's how he did this: literally, get up and come out of the cave, get back to work, go anoint a new king. Actually, go anoint two kings. Remember, there's northern Israel and southern Israel at this point. So go anoint two new kings. And by the way, there's a few worshipers of Baal that are going to come after you, but don't worry about that. The new kings, they're going to kill them. That was God's way of saying, I'm making a way for you. I'm with you. You do not have to be afraid. So get up, get back to work, and I'm with you. When God says go pick a new prophet, he's not saying, Elijah, you're fired, by the way. It's, hey, I want you to get back to ministry. It's your job now to start mentoring and training the guy that's going to follow you. That's an incredible thing that God would, even in our doubts, God continues to allow us to serve him. But also one of the best ways to deal with depression. And I'm talking about acute depression. I'm not talking about when there's actual chemical imbalances in our head. There's biological needs there. But when we are dealing with really what's just our feelings, one of the best ways we can get out of those feelings is to get up and serve other people and continue to serve Jesus. That is one of his remedies for that sort of thing. So remember that. That's really important both for you and for our students to hear. And then finally, I want you to point out how God took Elijah. If you go to 2 Kings chapter 2, you see the end of the story for Elijah, and he gets a special entry into heaven, unlike anybody else except for one other person, Enoch. Those are the only two guys in the entire Bible that the scriptures do not say they died. It says that God took them. Literally, he reached down from heaven and snatched them and took them up. Now, either way, people get to heaven, but Elijah just got something special, and I think that that's really neat to see and to point out. God was gracious to Elijah throughout and throughout, even in his doubts, even in his failures. It's good to know that we serve a good and gracious and loving God. May we be the same way with those that we deal with. Guys, I love y'all. I'll see you later. Have a great week.